Pick up your Monster Hunter merch at Big Bad Toy Store at the link in the description.
Dragon Ball, horror, kaiju, and more. Steven's Toy Reviews.
Hello there, collectors. It's going to be Steven here, and welcome to the biggest review that I have made in quite some time. I have put a lot of love, a lot of care into this, and I hope that you are going to enjoy. Today we are going to be taking a look at the monstrous combo of a review with the Kitzconcept 1/18 scale Hunter and Rathalos from Monster Hunter World. There are a lot of Monster Hunter fans who are enamored with the series and merchandise, and now that we have some action figures on the market from a couple of different companies now, seeing this and seeing what else is on the market have definitely raised some eyebrows. The Hunter is going to be hovering around the $60 mark and Rathalos around $300, regardless of where you're going to be picking it up. We'll talk about that when we get to his section. So without any further ado, I want to say we're going to be doing a double review. First, we'll tackle the Hunter, then we'll tackle Rathalos. Thanks to BBTS for helping out with this review and providing the Hunter for your viewing enjoyment. Let's take a look to see whether or not one, both, or neither will be worth adding into your collection. All right, so to kick things off talking about the Hunter, we are going to have the Hunter in 1/18 scale in the Hunter suit. So, Hunter armor set. Cool. Pretty straightforward default armor set from Monster Hunter World. You can't get much more vanilla than this, and I think it is a nice roundabout suit, armor set, whatever, for any generic Hunter in the collection. You want to throw him up on the shelf, and quite frankly, he's there. In terms of detailing, I don't think that there's really going to be anything specifically wrong, and a lot of the paint apps do look clean. If you're expecting one-to-one detail out of something this size, unfortunately, I don't think that this is going to be the name of the game for you, nor scale, because if you're going to have, like, let's say a 6'13" Hunter and scale him down to about this size, then unfortunately there are going to be details that are going to be missed, and that's pretty reasonable. But what Kitzconcept was able to do here, I think they did a rather rock solid job. So normally, I mean, for me, whenever I'm playing Monster Hunter, and this is probably going to be my memory for this particular section, I always make my Hunter look very goofy. I don't really care here nor there about what the Hunter actually looks like, but the armor choice is nice because we do have the emblem that's going to be on the chest, the Scout Fly Cage, which is a nice green and a great attention to detail. Then we do have some other miscellaneous markings found throughout the armor, including the blade on the back. That knife is looking very cool. There's really no bleed over for paint whatsoever, and some of the finer details like the fur that's going to be around the knee pads, considering what hand they were dealt here and the scale, I think it looks rather fine. Everything either is very on point to the armor set or is close enough that I think we can just say fair ground here and note that they did a good job. Nevertheless, I think the Hunter looks great. We're going to talk about the articulation on this little dude, and I will say that as I played with this guy just a little bit more, I noticed that there were a couple of more points of articulation as I kept going. I will note, though, that unfortunately there are going to be some areas that as you are moving him around, there are going to be parts that will pop off, but we're going to talk about that as we continue to go. Okay? Well, maybe some folks won't be upset that the clutch claw or the slinger, whatever you would prefer, pops off. So anyway, so we do have the head, which is going to be on a ball joint. Keep in mind that we do have a couple of different face plates, which I will cover. And because of that, we do have the jaw, which is going to hinder the movement a little bit, but he can look up about that far on his own, down that far, left and right. You are going to have to play with the other joints to really get the most out of the articulation for him to look in different directions. So just remember that. Now for the shoulders. This is kind of where I'm going to rely more so on this one. So, can he T-pose? Yes, but I will show you the other arm. The way that it works is it's actually going to be on a swivel where it plugs into the body and then a hinge. and not like a real true ball joint. Keep in mind that because of the particular armor that this hunter is wearing, I'm going to take the clutch claw off, we are going to have like this little, I don't know what you would call this, cloak part that is going to block the articulation for this arm a bit, but that's okay. We can raise and lower. And then it kind of seems like there's a bicep swivel here. At least it likes to spin around a bit, as you can kind of see, but it also feels really tight. So I can't tell if that's the plastic that's actually spinning or not. I really don't use that because alongside, whoops, that was the hand, because alongside the single hinge elbow, which does give us some pretty solid movement, we do actually have a swivel there as well. So for me, that's where I get the majority of my movement whenever I'm looking to get the swivel pose. As you can see, you can kind of cross over. So not a huge issue there. For the wrists, as you did see, they do peg in, so they do swivel around. And then there is going to be hinge movement, but they vary depending on the left and the right hand, so I am going to cover that a little bit more in the accessories section. For the left arm, as you did happen to see, we did have the clutch claw pop off, but then we do have this shoulder pad, which it is going to be on a ball joint in and of itself. So as you can see, that does help with the articulation, like not getting in the way when you go to get him to do a T-pose, but as you do move him around, it may pop off. Again, it kind of looks like we do have a bit of a bicep swivel there, but then the rest of the articulation is going to be the same. So moral of the story is when it comes to the arms, we do have that shoulder pad, which does like to pop off, and then we do have the clutch claw or the slinger, whichever you would prefer, that pops off with relative ease. For the rest of the main body, it does seem like there's a ball joint that is right here for like an ab crunch, but it doesn't really want to do too much moving. So the majority of the movement is going to be at the waist. So you can move that around, which is pretty solid. You know, that's where you're going to get him to really look up and look down, twist and turn from side to side. For the hips, just standard ball joints, nothing really over the top there. No push or pull up or down. You can kick about that far forward and that far back. We do have dedicated thigh swivels, so that's really nice. You can spin the thighs all the way around. Surprisingly, folks, double hinge knees. I was not expecting that, especially on a figure this size. And then to kind of cap everything off, we do have hinged ankles, forward and back, with ankle rocker movement, but do just keep that in mind that it is pretty simplistic, and it's nothing, you know, like SH Figuarts level or so forth. Just keep that in mind. The rest of the cloak, the cape here, it's made of a softer like vinyl type of material. I think in the promo shots it seemed to be a bit more of like a hard plastic if I remember correctly, but it is movable, which will be of a benefit when we talk about the accessories here in a second. I don't even know what sort of knife you would call this, the one that you use when you're mounting a monster and you're stabbing it, or to carve, I guess just the carving blade. This doesn't move at all. It's made of somewhat soft plastic at the handle, but as we get closer, it tends to firm up, so it is what it is. So, if you are looking to get your hunter to move and groove, yes, he does. However, keep in mind that there is going to be a size limitation, as well as we do have a couple parts that just like to pop off. So, c'est la vie. C'est la vie. But then, you can go old school hunter, right? Okay. So, accessories. What do we have? What does he all come with? Well, he does come with alternate head parts, face plates, whatever you would prefer. And I'm going to show you how you swap them off here. So you pop the head off, you reveal that ball joint, and then you remove the front part of the helmet, right? You remove that, and then you put a new one on, or the other. Now you may have noticed that the faces look a bit dirty, and that is mostly going to be because of transference of paint. So if you're very upset about that, unfortunately, that is just going to be the standard here. Whether or not it is intended to be a paint transfer, or that is just simply a matter of the style that they were going for with this guy, that's just the nature of the beast here. So we do get 3 in total face plates for the hunter, a neutral, teeth gritting, and yelling face. So if you wanted one of those expressions, congratulations, you do get those. Real easy to swap out. In addition, we do get a support stand, which just has Monster Hunter World on it. Cool. It is going to be similar to most import stands that you get. It is pretty nice. The points of articulation on the stand are good, and it supports him pretty well. Not too great when it comes to jumping with the greatsword we will take a look at in a second here, but nevertheless. Okay, so let's go ahead and cover the hands here first. So obviously we are going to get the default fists, right? Okay, so we do get the left and the right fists. Let's focus in there so this way you can get a clear look at them. We're going to do things a little bit differently so we can really get through these quick. Okay. So you can tell that the sculpting is different for the left and right hands, but what you might also be able to see is that the hinges are different as well. The right hands hinge up and down, and the left ones hinge in and out. That is not just going to be for these particular hands as well, because we do have the hands that are currently attached to the hunter, which do that, as well as these other hands that he comes with, as you can see there. Okay, so what other hands does he come with? Well, he actually comes with a wider grip holding hand and a smaller one, because he is going to come with, it is marked as the Odyssey blade, but this is actually going to be the hunter's knife in World. So in other games, older Monster Hunter games, this is going to be the Odyssey blade. So kudos to Kitzconcept for actually looking into the source material and taking a look at the weapons. So they kind of know their stuff here when it comes to the weapons that we have, but this is going to be the hunter's knife. This is going to be the hunter's knife. So if you do main sword and shield, congratulations, you have this, and we'll show you how to deck out your hunter with this in just a second. The next is going to be the great sword, and we get the giant jaw blade to go along with our hunter here. And the detail is pretty dang great. We can see that there are going to be a few different paint apps for the actual, I guess you may say, jaw. It does actually have a bit of a metallic sheen to it, which is cool. I guess maybe you can say it's wet, like a fresh carve of a jaw. Yeah, neat. Now, when you open this up, you may be looking at this and you're thinking, why do I have two different handles? Easy. When sheathed, and when drawn. Haha, there you go. So you can put one hand here and one hand there. Or you can just leave it like this, which honestly, that's just what I would do. I mean, it may not be accurate, so to speak, but it is what it is. And then you may be wondering, well, how does he sheathe the greatsword? Because it doesn't, well, you're going to see another part in your set, and it's actually going to be this. And all that does is it just plugs in and you are good to go. So now that you've even admittedly up close and personal taken a look at them, let's just go ahead and get some up close and personal pics so this way you can actually see how they look when we are not sort of moving them around, maybe some different sorts of lighting, etc., etc. Because these are really nicely detailed parts, especially for the hunter's knife. There are some really nice paint apps that are going on here. I really, really do appreciate them. I think that this is an excellent, excellent execution of the figure in terms of all of the neat accessories here. So real quick, let's just go ahead and show you how to use everything. So, standardly, let's just go ahead and say right-handed hunter. Okay, let's maybe go ahead and say that. So the way that you're going to use the shield is you pop off, and then you are going to, oh, I'm sorry, this would be left-handed. Because I believe the hunters are kind of like Link. And then you would just do that, and you would use the correct hand. So let's actually get the correct hand in there. So there you go. Bada bing, bada boom. So now you can use the hunter's knife to go and chop up Rathalos. Neat. Cool. Here's an issue though, which would have been so cool. There's no way to sort of mount the... Oh, knocked it off. There's no way to sort of mount the sword on the back of the hunter to sort of make it accurate, but you can kind of just seat it like that. You can kind of do that. If you get some blue tack, you can even make that a bit more realistic. It is what it is. Okay, there you go. Now, for the great sword, let's go ahead and pop the shield off. Oh, well, the shield just kind of came off. So you do have this peg, right? And that peg is exactly what I wanted to show you. What you're going to be doing is sticking it in the hole on the hunter's back, which it's kind of a rubbery piece. So just something to keep in mind. And it does a nice job staying, right? There you go. And then when you want your hunter to hold the greatsword, if you want to do it just like on the back of the box, you can do that. And it is heavy. It is heavy. So don't be surprised if over time it starts to begin to sag and it becomes a bit of an issue. If only there was an included support stand to prevent something like that. They should have maybe included 2 stands to sort of help with this, but nevertheless, it is really, really cool. Critiques for the accessories. What I will say is it would have been really cool if, when it comes to the hands, we would have maybe gotten just one set of weapon holding hands. As you clearly see, you can use just the same hands to hold both the greatsword and the sword and shield. And then for the left and right hands, add in alternate hinges for them. That would have been really nice. When it also comes to accessories, again, another claw, another support for the base would have been really cool. Otherwise, maybe just a happy faceplate and then meat. That would have been really nice. So we are pretty much done with the hunter. The sculpt and paint is pretty rock solid, I think, considering the size. The articulation, it gets the job done. You're not going to be putting it into a whole bunch of amazing poses, but nevertheless, it works. Parts do fall off. C'est la vie, I suppose. And for the accessories, I think it's pretty rock solid with what we get. Undoubtedly, there could be more possible callbacks, but it is what it is. Now, the big boy, Rathalos.
Rathalos time, and oh boy. You can tell I'm not doing a 360 spin view for this one because he is just too big. Like, I'm going to really hammer this home in the articulation section. Rathalos is just too big for me to do that. So here's what I am going to say. We're really going to get into the nitty gritty of it. Rathalos just looks fantastic. He looks amazing. The sculpted details are immaculate, and the paint application, I will say that in some spots it does look like he's kind of rubbed a little bit, like on the talons and maybe on the toes. You can sort of see like where maybe he scraped up against something, which is a little bit iffy, but I don't know if that's because of an intended look or if that's an accidental damage. But nevertheless, as you continue to look throughout the figure, you're going to see a very intense, ruggish wash that is going to help bring out the scales and the scutes and all of that fun stuff for Rathalos. And honestly, the only thing I can say is I am really taken back by just how beautiful this thing looks, and it's all of its grunginess, if you will, in a way. I will say as well, it does have a particular smell to it, similar to some of the Haya figures that I have commented on. It definitely smells almost oily in a way, which has not dissipated since I have opened it up. It's not overwhelming, sort of knock you out, sort of, as I have commented in my Haya reviews, but that scent still sort of lingers on. That being said, though, I mean, I'm just kind of filling time so I can really share with you how awesome Rathalos just looks, and this is definitely going to be its strongest point. When we do get over to the articulation section and the accessories and gimmick, that is kind of where Rathalos does start to go downhill a little bit. But nevertheless, I think this is going to be the strongest selling point. Amazing. And my fondest memory of Rathalos and in World, take it up to the nest, slam it into the dam, and just watch it fall down. Which, by the way, if you take anything other than the Wraths up to the nest and you slam them into the dam and the dam breaks, they just get a knockdown. Like I did that to Koosh before, and it's just a knockdown. So cool bug facts. Now, if you're just simply interested in Rathalos, you're probably saying to yourself, that is a big dragon. That's a big figure. There's going to be a lot of hinges, probably swivels, ball joints. That it's a big action figure. You know the implication there. And I would say to you, viewer, who says that, you are correct. Over time, since I've had Rathalos opened up, there have been a couple of issues that have sort of creeped up with gravity and the size, but I think, unfortunately, that is something that, given the nature of the beast, we're going to have to combat over time. However, I will say that there are quite a few things that are done rather well, and first time isn't always the charm, so hopefully this will be a good blueprint moving forward with what was done correctly for Kitzconcept, assuming they make more, and they can improve on it. I think that's where we can sort of look at that for the silver lining, if we will, right? Okay, so mouth, the jaw, opens and closes on a hinge. I hope you are watching very carefully because that is very difficult to make sure that you... Okay, is that joke done? Okay, all right, so the neck ball joint system is a little weird because it's not just a ball joint system. It attaches to the body on a hinge that ratchets. So we have some good solid movement there. You can hear that. Okay, so we have a few clicks down and up, which is good. And then Rathalos, once we get the wing out of the way, there we go, can look left and right. So we can look about that far to either direction. Los can look up that high and can look down about that far. Of course, that will depend on the body movement. So we'll take a look at the body here next, and we'll save the wings. So for the body, what we're going to have is a system of ball joints in the main body. And this one can be a little bit difficult because there is going to be that floating piece in the center there, as you can see. But we're basically just going to have a system of ball joints that is going to allow Los to curve up a bit and then down. So it's going to be double access, barbell style, twist and turn. Got to get the wings out of the way. You can kind of see, and it is very difficult to walk and chew gum at the same time, so please forgive me there. But yes, as you can see, that middle section, which is intended to cover up that ball joint, does tend to get in the way when you're moving the figure, but when you do have him posed, especially, let's go ahead and maybe turn it around so you can see the backside, it does help to cover up any of those assumed gaps that some folks may not like. Okay? Now, for the legs, because, you know, Los has legs. Move the wing out of the way. We do have ball joints for what would effectively be the hips. Okay? So Los can twist and turn. And then once again, we do have a floating piece to help cover up the gaps. For my Monster Arts fans in the crowd, my SHMA fans, you may recognize that sort of system that's there. It's going to be a barbell style, so you can kind of pivot the legs forward and back, push them up and down, rock in, rock out. Okay? Then we do have a hinge here. Well, we have a hinge here that swivels as well. But then I think this one's a bit easier to move on my particular unit. There you go. It's like a hinge, but it has a ball joint, it seems, because it likes to rock forward and back a bit as well. There you go. Now, for the toesies. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just because it can be a bit difficult to get them to move, so I'm actually just going to show you. We do have a double hinge on each talon. So as you can see, yeah. Isn't that cool? So some move a little easier than others. Some don't. And then, of course, for the actual foot, we get a hinge system with a little bit of a swivel for an ankle rocker. Yes, so these are good, but I will say, since they are rather, not tight, but I would say stuck, if you have any joint that feels like it's not wanting to move, just make sure you are using heat to make sure that it is going to move as well as it could, okay? And you want to make sure that it gets unstuck for you and you can move it. The wings. This is going to be something that I imagine a lot of folks are going to have issues with, just in terms of making sure that they are stabilized and so on. Now, again, we do have this little sleeve here, which sort of helps keep the fluidity of the sculpt, so it may get in the way as you're moving the wings around. But we do have a ball joint where they're connected in. Okay, that's cool. We can tilt, rock, spin, twist, flap up and down, but where that plugs into the body is actually going to be on a hinge as well. You can kind of see the hinge right there. You saw it probably a little bit over here, so we can push up, we can push down a bit if needed. The hinge actually doesn't really move that much, but it is there, okay? Now, we have this hinge here. Moves in, and then, it got caught on this plate back here, moves out. There you go. The wings are actually catching on to my studio lights, so please bear with me. Okay. Now what's cool is there is also a swivel. Aha. Okay. So you can angle the wings even more there. All right. Now, you saw where one of the inevitable issues may be, and that is going to be on this last sort of plate, okay? Both of them are relatively loose on mine. That's not something that, can be hidden. That's not, okay? They are relatively loose. Now, they do both have hinges, right? So that's how they move. And then they do also swivel a bit. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. What I will say is that if you do have loose joints, you can use the acrylic floor polish. If you are able to get your hands on some, you can use crystal clear top coat acrylic nail polish. Super glue, if you are very careful and you know how to use it, or I think it's Kiki's Joint Fix now. I think that is something that's on the market that folks use as well. But with this joint, okay, it seems to be universal for all of the figures that I have seen in the wild. But this is actually something it seems like Kitzconcept has considered and worked into the figure itself, because this is also something that I'm seeing not many folks have necessarily caught onto who have the figure. But I don't blame them, okay? Because, well, first and foremost, what you can just do is you can kind of just set the wing like that if you have Rathalos kind of like in a going up pose. But you may see right there. Yeah, there's a little hole. And why is that? Oh, because there's going to be a peg that is on the underside of the wing. And all you have to do is, first and foremost, get it in frame. And then pop it in like that. Hey, there you go. And this will actually stay. Like, this stays just fine. The only issue is that the peg is made of a softer material, just like the wings is, and it's easy to pop out if you are trying to fiddle around in this area. But once you do get it in, if you're like really flapping Rathalos around, it's not going to be easy to get that to be removed. So it is stable, but it's just a little finicky. Now, for the tail, as I bump my mic a little bit. All right. So you may notice, even probably in a couple of shots, the tail tip is missing. That is because this thing is so big, but we do get a separate tail part that is attached in the box. All right. So it is advised that you use heat for this. So this way you don't accidentally break anything, but all you just got to do is pop that in. And then we do have a system of ball joints. What I will say is, regardless of heat, that section still likes to just pop off. And you can even see it's starting to just pop out a little bit anyway. But nevertheless, you get a little bit of twisting and turning, and there you go. But even to the tail tip in and of itself, it has some decent movement. So it may seem like I really didn't push this figure too much. Please keep in mind, Rathalos is huge, okay? Despite it being, 1/18th scale, all right? This thing is huge, even from my review space. It's very difficult to move around, so I'm doing the best I can with what I have. So the moral of the story here is Rathalos can move. Rathalos does move nicely, but please consider the size and that some of the joints over time may get loose just because of the nature of the beast, size, the type of joints, so on. What I really didn't touch too much on, and this is going to lead into the accessories, would be one, Rathalos' shape, size, body type. This is a wyvern, right? So standing is not necessarily the name of the game here. Don't do it. Rathalos is going to need a support stand. Thankfully, Kitzconcept did include one. We'll talk about that in a second. But I will say standing on his own is not a strong point of Rathalos. There will need to be some sort of support. Otherwise, you can definitely see Rathalos is sort of slipping. But then that also goes into the materials that Rathalos is made out of. Rathalos is pretty much universally made out of a softer plastic. And that is sort of why you see, regardless, I am using my fingers to support Rathalos. That softer plastic, if the joints are sort of stuck, if they're feeling gummy for you in whatever reason, use heat so this way you can unstick the joints. So this way you have a nice Rathalos that can move around instead of one which may break, okay? Because you don't want any joints torn, you don't want anything popped off or ripped. You just want to try to avoid that. So now let's talk about not only the accessories, but the gimmick feature that Rathalos has as well. First, Rathalos is going to come with this support stand. It's pretty straightforward and simple. It says Monster Hunter World on it. Not really much else to say. It does come with these two outer pieces and one back piece. It's really easy to assemble. I don't think I need to show you how to do it. You can see what it looks like underneath, the official Capcom and Kitzconcept information. This figure was delayed considerably, so the 2022 Kitzconcept copyright is on there, but I believe this actually hit the market either the beginning of 24 or the end of 23. I forget which, but nevertheless, we do have it in hand. And the stand is not really, I guess one may say, modular, if you will. There's not a whole lot of interchangeability we can do with, like, let's say a Tamashii stage, but nevertheless, it is here. We have it. I did use some Tamashii stage stands for the photography that I did for Los for some of the pictures, because this stand is not really what I would be looking for some of the pictures for Los. But nevertheless, for that photography, just about what you're looking for some of the default things that Rathalos is going to have as his tail bumps into my backdrop. This is going to be pretty much what Rathalos is going to look like in the support stand. So that's kind of the cradle. It's more so a cradle than it is a stand now that I'm saying it. So that's pretty much going to be the gist of the stand. Now, Rathalos does come with a bit of a gimmick here, and some folks didn't really quite get the gimmick to begin with, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's their fault, because when we take a look at Rathalos, zooming in here just to really hammer this home on how cool this is, but in terms of execution, maybe it could be a bit better. There we go. Okay, so Rathalos in the box will come with some batteries, and I did get some extras. Here is the evidence of that, okay? I did get some extras because I thought maybe the batteries were dead, okay? But you remove the front scale part of Rathalos to reveal where the batteries go, okay? They're right there. Then, I couldn't figure out where the button would be for the light up feature, which they do very heavily advertise. Rathalos does not come with any sort of instructions. So, if you are looking for that, then you found the right place. So, I believe Rathalos comes with 3 different light up effects that can be used for display purposes. So, where's the button? This is the battery door, if you will. This is the button. May not seem like it, but it seems like for almost all of the units, the battery is a bit finicky and it gets stuck. So, you have to sort of pick the button up and then push it down. So, there you go. So normally, if you're familiar with frames per second, refresh rate, so on, you're probably thinking that that little flicker effect is just a trick of that. Not really. That little flicker is actually what Rathalos is supposed to be doing, along with the first successful hit, which was the eyes light up yellow. Very, very faint. That is not only just because of the studio lighting as well. So I'm going to go through my paces with the lights off, but I'm just showing you this for now. So then there will be one more, and that's more of a pulsating effect. Now, this is meant to be a gimmick as well with the flame effects in his mouth, so I am going to throw those in there as well. But this is just sort of to go over the features that Rathalos has. It is a bit of a critique that the lighting effects, even without using the normal included batteries, they're pretty weak. I think they definitely could be a bit brighter. All things considered, this is an action figure with a light-up gimmick in the head. The box and the promo pictures make it seem like it's so much brighter, but it's not necessarily that way here on the product when we have it in hand. So I'm going to go ahead and put the flame effect that we have right here, which you can put it in sort of this way, right? But you have to close the mouth a bit more. Doesn't really fit, but if you put it so this way, the flames are sort of shooting down, it fits in better. And of course, with the lights on, you can't really see it too well, but with the lights off, it does look a little bit better. But still, nevertheless, it does seem to be a bit on the weaker side. Now, Rathalos does come with a fireball as well. Now, for the fireball, this is essential. Monster Hunter effect for Rathalos, right? Like, if you have a Rathalos, you need a flame effect. This is really cool. Downside to this, despite it being really awesome, there isn't a support stand for this. Like, there's no definitive, like, extra effect part, support part stand for this. There's no, like, little stand that the Hunter came with that you could use with this. I suppose that you could use this support stand for the Hunter to, like, grab onto the trail if you do get the Hunter and you don't get Rathalos. But the problem is, the only other way is, this is something that I saw online from somebody else, is you could do it like this. And I do show that in one of my pictures. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's cool. But anatomically, anyway, so while very neat, I do think that that is a little bit of a missed opportunity for Rathalos here to have a support stand for the fireball shooting out. So it's just a critique to have, considering the price point and what some folks may be expecting. I mean, in today's day and age, a lot of folks probably do have support stands that they can sacrifice for Rathalos here, considering the awesome possibility of a display piece. But nevertheless, I don't know. I think that's just kind of where I'm at. So for the accessories and for the gimmicks of Rathalos, I think that's about all I can really report back. So with that being said, do you need extra support stands? Do you need extra effect parts? Tamashii Effect Burning Flame. Now it's for SH Figuarts. Do you need support stands that will help you, or even clear acrylic risers, which is what I used in some of the photography? I've got videos to help you out, so definitely please check out those videos. And now that we're here, we're going to go ahead and move on over to a size comparison so you can see how big these two are. And quite frankly, the Rathalos, again, is a monstrosity. And that is going to be the biggest drawing point here for Rathalos. You know, he's huge. He's huge. And of course, the Hunter as well. The Hunter is going to be able to blend in swimmingly with your other kind of sort of 1/18 scale figures. And if you have like Hammond Collection or anything else of the like, then this is just going to be awesome for you. So buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. Starting with the Hunter, he does look fantastic, I think. And when it comes to the articulation, I am pretty much going to say I think he's rather solid. I don't think there's anything particularly bad about him considering the scale. I think he's fine. For the accessories, I think, again, everything just plays out fine. There could be a few areas of improvement, though I do think a few callbacks to the actual game, like let's say maybe a potion or a well-done steak, would have really sweetened the deal. The price is again going to be $60, $65. And that being said, that is probably going to turn some people off, and folks are going to say, no thank you. Which to that, I do understand that is going to be a price point that maybe only the most diehard Monster Hunter fans are going to accept. Now, I will also note is that apparently this is not going to be perfectly in scale with some 1/18th scale like G.I. Joe figures or Haya, so I'm going to bring this in and tie it into Rathalos as well. For Rathalos, the looks, fantastic, and the thing is stunning. When it comes to the articulation, again, the figure is huge, and from the jump, there should already be expected joint weakness, especially over time. The ability to fix that, I don't really know. We're just going to have to wait to see how that plays out. I would expect that to be totally possible, though, depending on your ability to perform figure surgery, as I like to call it. For the accessories, Rathalos is pretty much no issue there with what he comes with, except for maybe a more customizable modular stand, though I personally was not as thrilled with the fire flame light up effect, though that is not exclusive to my unit, and I did happen to see somebody online who needed to reach out to Kitzconcept to confirm that the light up feature worked and how it did as well. So it's not only for me. The Rathalos is going to be $300, and I know that some folks may say, well, I'm going to go look at blank to get it. Kitzconcept actually ran a 50% off sale through them directly, and with shipping to me, keep in mind they're out of China, it was more than what BBTS was offering, so do keep that in mind. I think that Rathalos is solid. I would definitely purchase it again. The thing that I really want to hammer home with Rathalos is going to be the articulation is not necessarily a selling point. The articulation is more so a cherry on top. When it comes to the accessories for Rathalos, I am going to have to say that the light up effect could definitely be better. What really is the selling point for Rathalos is it's big and it's beautiful. Tie in the Hunter here. 1/18th scale. If you're able to find other monsters or other dinosaurs like the Hammond collection, this is a match made in heaven for you. Now, as an aside, that being said, Kitzconcept was supposed to be working on a Zinogre figure due sometime, even after a delay this year. I have seen nothing of it. I've reached out to Kitzconcept through social media. I haven't seen any response, no updates. So is this line done? Don't know. Hope not. I would like to see more.